Hello people, welcome back to Jamie Talks Celtic. Let's hope I'm not muted this time, because I've just went live for a wee bit there and I was muted. So let's have a wee look here, just to double check that I'm not muted or anything, because I can't really be bothered sitting about talking to myself again. So let's hope I am not muted this time. Let's have a wee look. We'll talk all things Celtic, people, if I'm not muted, that is obviously. Let's have a look. Live. Yes, I am not muted. Happy days. You should all be able to hear me now, guys. Yes, so I was out today. A nice wee bit of sun about me. It was a lovely day here in Scotland. The sun was shining. So me, the missus and my son, we decided to go down the park, have a wee walk about. And, generally try and enjoy the sunshine while it lasts, because it's not something that we get very often here in Scotland. So I decided to do that. All the while, I had a wee eye on the Celtic game today, because it was a big game, pre-season friendly-wise. We played Middlesbrough at Celtic Park, and it seems like there was a massive boycott at Celtic Park. I've seen the pictures, I've seen some footage. I've not actually seen the game yet. The game finished 1-1. We'll talk about that in a wee minute. But it was a massive statement today from Celtic fans. Well done to any Celtic fan that would have struggled to do that today, because no doubt there would have been thousands of Celtic fans that would have turned up today, and they probably found it really difficult not to actually do that, because some people need to realise that, and I'm talking about guys like Ewan Cameron on this, because Ewan Cameron has done a ex-post saying, big deal, you've boycotted a friendly match, a pre-season friendly, but you've still done season tickets. Listen, you're talking about some people's lives here. Some people's lives revolve around football, and in our case, revolve around Celtic. Some people, when they get up on a Monday morning, they think to themselves, right, what's going to get me through the day here? And that's going to support their team at the weekend or during the week. You know what I mean? I think that we fail to realise that sometimes when we're saying boycott, it's as if it's such an easy thing for people to do. It's not an easy thing for people to do, you know what I mean? So, well done to any Celtic fan that would have went to that game the day under any other year, any other circumstances, but they decided, you know what, you're not getting my money, or you're not getting my back in the day, because the way you have treated the supporters, the way you are showing a real lack of ambition with doing things in that. So well done to any Celtic fan, and also well done to any Celtic fan that did turn up today, you know what I mean, because there's a lot of pressure on people not to go to these games, and these guys and women and children have decided, you know what, I'm just still going to go and back my team. So I mean, I totally get it from both sides. So personally, I'm on the side of don't go to the games. I don't think you should be going to the games until there is clear change at Celtic Park. Whether that is them changing their ways and their philosophies, or in personnel. If you have to get rid of Dermot Desmond, if you have to get rid of Michael Nicholson, all these guys who are not doing their job properly, let's be honest with you, that's not happening. They're not doing the things that are required from a big club. A massive statement today from the Celtic supporters. Will it make a difference? I doubt it, but time will tell. I don't think that they're really bothered about this. I mean, they've done known the attendances yesterday, and yet there's still no, secured Saracchi and Iheanacho and all these guys. So they know exactly what they're doing, man. They're not bothered about how the Celtic fans feel, in my opinion. I don't think they're particularly arsed about how angry Celtic fans are, or what's going to happen next after this. I think that they're quite content to go along the road of just, we will never be in a position of Rangers, and we will, somebody posted earlier on, I think it was Keith who does Come On Hoops YouTube channel and stuff, nice guy. I'm sure he posted something earlier on that was, the AGM for last year, and it was Ross Desmond's statements of how, we will never be in the position of, a real financial struggle and all that, and nobody's asking you to be. Nobody is asking you to go out and break the bank. However, what we're asking here is for you to go and spend the money that you have got, that the fans have provided for you through season tickets and merchandise, and success on the pitch and that. We've got money at the bank. Go and spend it. So, well done. I'm really, really proud of my club today and my supporters today, because for all the guys, all the three stands basically empty. You know what I mean? There was more Middlesbrough fans there today than there was Celtic fans, and you know what? Any other time I'd be ashamed of that. But see, because it's a boycott and it's the day, I'm totally proud of everybody who didn't turn up who would have. But you know, the game finished 1 each. I've not, like I say, I've not seen the game. I've not even seen the highlights. You know, let's look at a wee bit of a positive note here. There isn't many positive notes, but we will. Sorry, somebody at my front door there. But we will focus on, you know, the positive today. That is, Camilo Duran scored a goal again for Celtic. That's 2 goals in 2 games for him. Colombian striker. He looks the part. You know what I mean? He's come in for Karabag. He had a very, very good season last season, scoring 5 goals in the Champions League. He looks as if he knows where the back of the net is, and he's going to be a constant threat. You know, if he continues that kind of form, then he'll be a real asset to have for Celtic, particularly in the Scottish Premier League. We're also linked with Hassan, the Egyptian winger from Real Oviedo. So hopefully we can get that deal done. There is rumours circulating about on social media that it could be up to £7 million. Fantastic if that happens. You know what I mean? That is exactly the things we're looking for. We're not looking for £20 million signings. You heard opinionated Glaswegian and the new kit boy. I've not. I don't know what you mean, but anyway. So Camilo Duran, we're looking for £7 million players. We're looking for £20 million players. We're looking for players, you know, between £5 and £10 million that are going to really make an impact at Celtic. You know, in my live yesterday, I said that as it stands, we need about 6 or 7 players through the door. We sell Maeda, we sell Engels, we sell Hatate, we sell Alistair Johnson, we sell all these guys. You're looking at a whole new team. Do you know what I mean? You're looking at a whole brand new 11. So, you know, there's loads and loads of work for Celtic still to be done. Again, that's 3 games now, pre-season friendlies. I know results mean nothing, absolutely nothing, but again, we've not picked up any victory, which is, I wouldn't say it's concerning just yet. We play AC Milan next weekend. Let's see how that goes and stuff, but, you know, there was no real backing at Celtic Park today because, like I said, there was more Middlesbrough fans there, so it's just interesting. Will this change the board's thinking, their philosophy and all that? I highly doubt it, to be honest with you. I don't think that they're going to be sitting there particularly worried about how, you know, people haven't turned up to a pre-season friendly. But, you know, I don't blame anybody that's bought a season ticket either. End of the day, as some people's lives, like I mentioned earlier on and stuff. So, you know, sorry for guys like you and Cameron to come out and criticise Celtic and Celtic supporters for actually supporting their team and all that. But at the end of the day, if some people without Celtic or football, they've not really got any other joy in their life. You know, that is how some people live. That there is a large part of the population in the world that football is their life, their absolute life, and going to the football with their, you know, whether it be their children or their father or their mother or whatever, you know, their family members, pals. There's some people that is their life. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I don't criticise anybody for going to games and buying season tickets and stuff, but I mean, I'm all for change here. I'm all for boycotting these matches and no going to support, you know, this ridiculous board that are doing nothing, absolutely nothing but sitting on their hands and that. And you know, the thing is, right, next week we could go out and sign 2 players, right? We can go out and sign 2 players for £7 million and £6 million, right? But see, at the end of the day, even if that's the case, see, up until this point, where we're almost in August, it's taking too long. We could go out and sign 2 or 3 players next week, and I would still be going, do you know what? This is taking far too long. You know, so the grievances are correct. It's not as if, you know, if you buy a couple of players, you'll shut up and that'll be it, and stop crying and stuff like that. No, we should already have 4 or 5 players in by now. You look at that team today, man. You know, you've got Oxley, Chamberlain, McGregor. A lot of these guys are. There's not a lot of pace in that team anymore. You know what I mean? You've got James Forrest, who's, you know, an older gentleman now in football terms. You've got a lot of guys in that team now there's no much legs in there. You know what I mean? There's no much kind of. Maeda is obviously a big miss and stuff, but I mean, we need a wee bit more athletes in that team. I think we need more players that are able to get up and down the park with ease, and you know, a wee bit more energy in the team and stuff like that. But I know that Engels isn't playing, and Maeda isn't playing, and Nigrin isn't playing, and all these other guys who would have started the day and stuff like that. But, you know, this is a good opportunity for Martin O'Neill and for everybody in the backroom staff to have a look at these players. You know, your McCardles and stuff like that, and all these other boys that started, Dane Murray and all that. You know, it's an opportunity for these guys to stake a claim. You know, these are people that are in your squad, so they should be good enough to play for Celtic, right? So you could turn around and go, you know, the main players weren't there. These guys should still be good enough to play for Celtic. You know what I mean? These guys should be pushing on Martin O'Neill's, or knocking on Martin O'Neill's door, pushing to get in his team. You know what I mean? That's the thing. We can't be making excuses because, you know, our best first team players aren't in the team today, or on the pre-season friendlies or whatever. So, at the end of the day, it was one each. Like I said, Middlesbrough had a decent wee team. You know, I watched a wee bit of them last season and stuff in the Championship. They almost got promoted. So, you know, they're quite a big club in that as well. They brought quite a wee, you know, a good section of supporters over into Glasgow today and stuff like that. So, you know, the board. Well, let's see what happens. Apparently, I was reading as well that there was a couple of protests outside Celtic Park. Not sure how true that was. I've not seen anything else on that. I've just seen a kind of somebody mention that on X. Don't know if that's true or not. But at the end of the day, we'll see what happens, won't we? You know what I mean? Like, a lot of the time, I think we've just all got to agree that it's just not good enough. It's just simply not good enough. But, you know, another thing I want to talk about before I wrap things up today is Saracchi. Absolutely gutted. Another one that I didn't mention yesterday because I was on my live yesterday. Saracchi made a statement on Instagram. We'll just get that here and I'll read it out to you exactly what he said in a wee second. That, but you know, I'm absolutely gutted about this one because, you know, fantastic player, and you know, whenever Kieran Tierney he was injured or whatever, or maybe no performing or suspended or whatever, we were all comfortable with Saracchi coming in. We were all comfortable. In fact, there was some people even suggesting that Saracchi should start ahead of Kieran Tierney last season in certain games and stuff, and I was never arguing with somebody going, that's a ridiculous take, because Saracchi was fantastic for Celtic. He was, every single time he was called upon, Saracchi was brilliant. And, you know, to even the point where Martin O'Neill, I'm sure it was at Ibrox, or it might have been the last game of the season actually at Celtic Park, where he kind of singled Saracchi out in the dressing room for a bit of praise and stuff. You know what I mean? They brought him up and he gave him a hug and they were all cheering and stuff like that. So that just shows you that Martin O'Neill thought a lot of Saracchi as well, Marcelo Saracchi. So, you know, we'll see what happens here. But here's what he had to say. He said, "Dear Celtic fans, I'm writing this to say goodbye. We had an intense, beautiful year together where we achieved so many of our goals. My agent and I did absolutely everything within our power to make a return to Glasgow happen. I'm truly gutted that I won't be able to continue at the club at this stage of my career. However, I know our paths will cross again in the future. I wish you all nothing but the best for what's ahead. Thank you for everything." So Saracchi has basically said in that statement there that he wanted to stay at Celtic. He wanted to come back to Celtic and sign a contract. His agent and him tried everything. You're no telling me for a single second that Celtic couldn't afford Saracchi's wages for the next few years. The guy wouldn't have been on megabucks. He'd have been on a decent wage that we could more than afford, and he wanted to come to Celtic and all that. We all seen enough of Saracchi last season to get him back on board and that, and the Celtic board again have let us down. They've let us down with Iheanacho, and now they've let us down with Marcelo Saracchi. So I'm gutted about this one. I'm actually gutted about this one more than Iheanacho, to be honest. I mean, I thought Iheanacho, like I said yesterday, was a fantastic player for Celtic last season. He stepped up in big moments. And, you know, a real asset to have at the club and stuff, especially, like I say, you know, Kieran Tierney's not the most, you know, he's not the fittest guy in the world. He can pick up an injury or two, Kieran can. So Saracchi would come in and all that, and he would slot in perfectly for us. But we've not done the business, so I don't honestly know what the thinking is behind here. We need to now go out and buy a left back, unless what they're thinking is, you know, we put Liam Scales as a backup, but then Liam Scales has just signed a new contract, and then, you know, we're thinking we'll put Liam Scales as a left back and we'll bring in another centre half. I doubt that's the thinking, to be honest with you. I don't think that'll be the thinking. I would more than imagine now that Celtic will try and go out and get a left back. And why not try and get a left back that was already happy at the club and was already in the position of being a backup to Kieran Tierney. I don't understand this. Now you're going to have to go out and get somebody of a decent amount of quality that is going to be A, good enough to, come in when Kieran Tierney isn't playing, and B, be happy to sit on the bench when Kieran Tierney's playing. Saracchi clearly wanted that challenge. He clearly wanted that to happen. Now, whether Saracchi has turned around and went, I want some guaranteed football, I doubt that very much if he's saying his agent was involved. It's clearly a financial thing, isn't it? You know what I mean? If his agent was, him and his agent tried everything. If it was just to do with football terms, I doubt that he would even come out with the statement about him and his agent and stuff. So, clearly Saracchi wanted to come back and fight for his place at Celtic and fight for, the left back position, but it's just no happened. Celtic have, for whatever reason, decided to go down another avenue or decided that they don't think he's worth the money, I know that we did try and get him on a season-long loan again, which is a slap in the face to the guy and a slap in the face to Celtic fans again. I really don't understand things. I don't understand what they're thinking at times. So I am absolutely gutted about Saracchi staying on, to be honest with you. I really am, because I think after a period of time, he would have been pushing Kieran Tierney for a first-team slot, because, like I say, every single time that he was called upon, when he came on in matches and stuff, we were solid. We were absolutely solid. He was fantastic on the ball. He was great at defending. He could pick out a pass. He was good going forward. You know what I mean? So, it's just gutting, man. It's just gutting to lose a player of that calibre again. You know what I mean? And, we're going to have to make a gamble now. We bring in another player on our left back. It's going to be a gamble. Whereas we already knew what we were getting with Saracchi. We already knew what we were getting with Iheanacho. And that was quality. You know what I mean? So now it's going to be more gambles and, just what? To save a few quid. Biscuit tin is back, Lawrence, you're right. It is. Huns are going to win the league. Listen, I'm not going to go that far. I don't believe that Rangers are in a position to say that they're going to win the league or anything like that, I think that Rangers have obviously improved with bringing in Shankland and Devlin and, McInnes as their manager. They've obviously improved in certain aspects of their game, but as it stands right now, even with all my moaning and all that stuff here, right, Celtic have still got the best squad in the country. We've still got Maida, we've still got Engels, we've still got McGregor, we've still got Nygren, we've still got Carter Vickers, we've still got players that... how many Rangers players would get in the Celtic team? Like, a fully strengthened Celtic team, never mind these pre-season friendlies at the moment, right? A fully strengthened, up-to-date Celtic team, as it stands right now in this moment in time, right? Saturday night, right? How many Rangers players are getting in that Celtic team? Because no many, in my opinion. No many as it stands. According to Talk Celtic, there are court cases in USA and Australia. That's why money is getting spent. Why no money is getting spent. Court cases. Well, again, these are rumours, mate. These are guys suggesting things like that. I don't know how much truth in that. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not true. I don't know. That's part of the problem, though, Tony, is that we're not being told enough. You know what I mean? We are not being given the right information from the club. It's not as if anybody's coming out and going like, you know what, we've got a wee bit of problem here and all that, we've got situations going on in the background. But no one, there's no dialogue. There's no dialogue whatsoever. So, you're saying that, right? So if there's no money getting spent because of certain court cases or whatever, why is Brian Wilson coming out 5 weeks ago saying it's going to be a really, really busy few weeks? It's going to be really busy, we're going to be doing this and that. And you're like, well, if that's the case, what you're saying, then he's lied. He's lying to the fans, Shankland would... I'm not sure Shankland would get in the Celtic team. I'm not sure of that, to be honest with you. Again, Camilo Duran might be... We don't know how good he's going to be yet. Maida would be on the left, or you put, Yang. Yang would be on the right for me. Ahead of area Rangers. They've got Ant-Man and stuff like that. It's not good enough. Maybe a push Raskin would get in the Celtic team, I think. Raskin and Fernandes. I think they're about the only two that would possibly get in the team. But, you've just mentioned one player there, like I say, it's like the majority, if you were to do a Celtic Rangers combined 11 right now, the majority of them would be Celtic players. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. The majority of them would be Celtic players. You'd have Raskin in there, possibly in the middle of the park, alongside McGregor, in my opinion. And you'd have Fernandes alongside Carter Vickers at centre-half. Apart from that, we've got the best right-back in the country, Arthur Johnson. We've got the best left-back in the country, Kieran Tierney. Like I say, I think my midfield three would probably be McGregor, Raskin and Nygren. And then on the left, I'd have Maeda. On the right, I'd have Yang. And then, up front, possibly, Duran. Don't know how good he looks good so far, but, as it stands, I don't know. Osman's a good wee player. Outside of Shankland's about the only one that you could honestly make a case for. Miovski's no the man for he's a dud. You've got Chermiti, who's a dud. I know he scores some good goals now and again, but that's what I've always said over the years, right? So when Hingway was at Rangers, what's that bit? What was his name again? Cyril Dessers, right? When he was at Rangers, I was always saying we cannot lose a league to a team that has a guy like Cyril Dessers up front. You know what I mean? If you're going to win a league, you need a number 9 who scores goals consistently, and we've always had that, right? Whereas they've no, you know what I mean? And Dessers, even though he did score goals and all that, big moments and all that, he was hopeless. But Shankland would probably be the shout if you're going to actually go down to it and stuff like that. Maybe Shankland, but again, you're talking 2-3 Rangers players, and the rest would be Celtic, in my opinion. Shankland will get 16 goals. He might. Romans is a decent defender, I'll give you him, but Kieran Tierney's better. Kieran Tierney's better than Romans. I think we can all agree with that. Kieran Tierney's at a higher level than Romans. Apart from that, I mean, Rangers have got about 7 million central midfielders and all that, and I would only take Raskin out of a lot of them, to be honest with you. Like I said, they've got no wingers. We've still got the best squad in the country. And nobody can really argue that. Come on, guys. How can we honestly argue that Rangers have got a better squad than Celtic? There's no way anybody can argue that. However, it's still not good enough for Celtic. We need to actually... This is the moment, do you know what I mean? This is the thing that's frustrating, right? Yeah, an actual big loss, definitely. But this is the thing that's frustrating, right? Is we're in a position now where I firmly believe we've still got the best squad in the country, but yet we're still miles off it. We're still miles off where we should and could be. You know what I mean? And that is going to take 3 or 4 players to come in of real decent quality. And, we had them there. We had Ian Hatcho. You know what I mean? We had Saracchi. We had 2 sitting there that was going to come in. And if we'd have been sitting here right now, if I was to do that team now, I'd be going like that. You know what? Ian Hatcho up front. That'd be it. Done. There would be no talk of Shankland. There'd be no talk of Osmond and all this. It would be Ian Hatcho. Now, here's a ridiculous statement. Lawrence, I'm a Celtic fan. This channel is called Jamie Talks Celtic, right? But, however, if Rangers fans want to come in here and have reasonable, decent conversations with me, I'm happy to talk to everybody. Do you know what I mean? But, are you going to get help off the refs? Now, as I said yesterday, right? How come you're no one talking about how when Joe Newell handballed it against Celtic at Easter Road for Hibs and scored a goal, it went to VAR and they went, oh no, didn't hit his horn, goal, right? What about when Benjamin Nygren was pushed in the same game, right? And in the box, and it was a clear foul, didn't even go to VAR. You know what I mean? People are forgetting all the decisions that go against Celtic, right? How don't we just go like, you know what, the rest aren't they up to a decent enough standard instead of doing the cheating garbage? Do you know what I mean? If it wasn't for that John Beaton decision at the third part, nobody would have said any of this. At the end of the day, that either did hit his horn or it was a whisker. I've said it. I don't want to keep repeating myself. But people who honestly believe that Celtic get favours and all that in this country are delusional as hell, man. Delusional as hell. But, keep spinning that narrative if it makes you feel better. How not just admit your team weren't good enough last season, and you need to improve. Refs are rubbish in Scotland. Correct, now you're talking sense. Because the whole world was talking about it. But there was no cheating. There was no cheating going on last season in Scotland. The referees just weren't good enough. Right? There was decisions for Celtic and there was decisions against Celtic. There was decisions for Rangers, there was decisions against Rangers. Hearts didn't win the league because Hearts fucked up with their away form in the second part of the season. Right? They lost against Celtic away, obviously, in the last day of the season. They lost against Aberdeen away. They lost against Kilmarnock away. They lost against St Mirren away. That's why Hearts didn't win the league. Nothing to do with one decision that did or didn't hit somebody's horn that was up there. You know what I mean? It's like, please just take your biased binoculars off and stop grating like Wayne's, man. At the end of the day, Celtic won the league because Celtic were the best team in the league. And even at that, we were terrible. You know what I mean? So, whatever, man. Why did Neil have a meeting with Colm just before the split? Sounds dodgy. Come on, mate. Come on. How do you know that he's had a meeting with Colm? I'll need to look that one up. I've not heard that one before. I don't know. I don't know anything about that, Tony, so I don't know whether you're making that up or it's a rumour or whatever. At the end of the day, I'd need to see the evidence for that. And even if that was the case, but a manager's not allowed to talk to people, and he's the head of the ref. Oh, let's call a meeting. And all that, and I'm going to sit in a meeting with you, and I'm going to say, you better give us decisions. Willie. Is that how you think the meeting went? Was dodgy about that meeting? Was dodgy about the head of referees speaking with a manager? You know what I mean? I'm sure if freaking Danny Rowe wanted to talk to him, it would have happened. People are looking for excuses of why Celtic won that league last season. And the reason is simple as this. Rangers and Hearts weren't good enough to beat Celtic last season. It's as simple as that. Simple as that. They weren't good enough to beat Celtic and Rangers last season. They didn't have a good enough... to beat Celtic last season. They didn't have a good enough squad to do it. End of story. Just block people. Listen, mate, I'm only going to block people if they're going to be nasty or horrible, whatever. If people want to have crazy opinions, that's fine, you know what I mean? But I'm not going to block anybody for having mental opinions, because at the end of the day, that is their prerogative. If they want to go down the road of it's cheating and all that, fair dues, man, but they're after heat. You know what I mean? What about decisions, there's even, it's mental on it, you look at football, you look at the World Cup there, you know what I mean? Lionel Messi playing out his skin and all, Argentina getting to the final, and there's people going, Messi, FIFA giving Messi everything. Come on, he's just the best player in the world, man. They've just got one of the best teams in the world, and they grind out results. I can't honestly remember watching an Argentina game and thinking, they've got away one there. That was a foul in the Egypt game. 100%. When they scored, Egypt, they scored. And even at that, they scored after it again when the same guy scored, and it was a legit goal. So, I mean, it's absolutely insane, man. It's absolutely insane. When teams are successful, the whole cheating thing always comes out. What about Man United when they were winning all the leagues? All the leagues. What was it? Fergie time. You know what I mean? Let's add on another 12 minutes. Not garbage. It was just, it wasn't going on. Do you know what I mean? It was just, they had more stoppage time. They had stoppage time. Man United were the good enough team to grind out results in the final minutes of games. End of story. Nobody was given any favours. Nobody was given any dodgy decisions and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Even Man City, they're successful over the last several decades now, right? They've bought the league, but listen, you can only do what you can do. But the referees give Man City all these decisions and all that you hear, and all these paranoid Man United and Liverpool fans, and it does your head in, man. Success just comes with criticism that isn't warranted at times. Do you know what I mean? Enzo Fernandez class, definitely. What's happening, Glasgow Rebel? Also, these refs say they conspire to win Celtic League are Rangers fans. As if they're going to conspire together and cheat. Who honestly thinks that in their mind? Do you know what I mean? I remember growing up, and I did a video about this not long ago, right? I remember growing up in the 90s and all that, right? And all my family, that side of my family, my dad's side, are all big Celtic fans. And I remember being a kid, right? And them all telling me, Rangers get all the decisions. Rangers are terrible. This was when Rangers were winning 9 in a row, by the way. You know what I mean? When Rangers were battering the white and the flare with Celtic during the 90s and stuff, right? And all right, there was the odd decision here and there. There was, but you're going to get odd decisions. Referees are human, and Rangers they get all the decisions and all that. And now because Celtics are the successful team, you know what I mean? It's like Celtic are are getting all the decisions. Celtic, they're all conspiring to beat Celtic and all that, to win Celtic the league and win Celtic all these trophies. Now you're just like, honestly, man, how can people not just realise that fundamentally it comes down to who's the better team, who's the best team with it in the league throughout the season? Do you know what I mean? Coping mechanism from last season still feels like that's the thing. It's just easy for these people to say cheating and, you know, so everybody's against your club and all that when, you know, when your team get beat. It's just so easy to get in the road of, oh, they cheated. It's absolute nonsense. Did Sefco not have a meeting with the rest or someone about it? Of course they did. Of course they did, mate. Of course they did, Kevin. But that's their prerogative. You know what I mean? I'm not sitting here going like that. They had a meeting, and in that meeting the SFA went, you know what, you're right, Rangers, you know what, we'll start getting your decisions and all that. These clubs are entitled to have meetings with people. They're entitled to have meetings with hierarchy. Do you know what I mean? Who do you think will be third this season? I reckon it'll be Hearts again. Hearts were obviously second last season, but I think it'll be Hearts. I think Celtic, Rangers, Hearts. I don't see anybody else coming up that's going to challenge any day three. And I think you'll see a massive gap again between Rangers and Hearts. I think we'll be going back now. Hearts have lost their manager, they've lost their captain and top goal scorer, they've lost their midfield maestro. By the way, no have I ever seen a player suited to a club in my whole life. Cammy Devlin and Rangers, you know what I mean? The wee thug in the middle of the park that likes to get booked, likes to put his foot in and hurt people and all that, likes to get in the opposition's face and create controversy. Listen, it's a match made in heaven with A2, man. He'll be a good player for them, unfortunately. Although I think ability-wise, he's probably along the same lines like Ian Black. You know what I mean? I don't think he's got much football ability, Cammy Devlin, for what I've seen over the years. All he's known for is just being a wee terrier in the middle of the park. And that's exactly what they like watching, isn't it? Whereas we like watching kind of flair, attacking football, creating opportunities, scoring goals. That's what we like. They like hammer and tongs, let's fight for our points and all that crap. So, it'll be Hearts, I think. Tony says, anyway, enjoy your court cases. If that makes you feel better, Tony, good on you, mate. Dum, what's happening? Dum, 17-point swing from VAR calls alone, all in Celtic's favour. No one's saying the Celtic players cheated, but you can't convince anyone SFA weren't helping you. Well, yes, you can say that. You're completely and utterly wrong, Dum. You're talking about 17 points. Now, what happens when... Now, I would like to know how many of those points were actually merited. How many of those 17 points were correct, right? For starters. Second of all, see when you have the majority of the ball and you're the best team in the country, you're going to get more opportunities in the box, so that'll create more penalty decisions. You're going to have more of the ball, i.e. players will be tackling you more. So, you know, whether that is players getting sent off against Celtic, that's what happens when you've got the majority of the ball. So, again, you've given me a statistic there, Dum. I think that you've maybe not made up that stat, but you've came to the conclusion without actually properly looking into it, is what I suggest. What I suggest is you maybe go down the road of looking at the decisions and finding out how many of them were correct. Because it's alright to say, 17-point swing from VAR to Celtic. Well, for all you know, mate, 15, 16 of the points could have been correct decisions. So, that's all I'll say to that one. The SFA aren't helping Celtic. Get a grip of your life, mate, honestly. Well, the Motherwell case wasn't. The Motherwell case was a close decision. This is what baffles me. See the whole Sam Nicholson handball thing? That was a close call. That wasn't a ridiculous, horrendous, scandalous, pathetic decision. It was a close decision that John Beaton had a look at the monitor and thought, that's hit his horn. And I've said that a million times. If it didn't hit his hand, it was millimetres. Millimetres. So John Beaton has obviously looked at it and thought, that's his hand. John Beaton hasn't went over to that monitor and went, I'm going to say that's hit his horn. I'm just going to say that. I don't think that's hit his horn, but I'm going to say it's hit his horn. And you know what might come with this? I might get death threats and all that. I might have to get police, surveillance outside my house and all that. But I'm just going to give the wrong decision anyway. I'm just going to give the wrong decision anyway. Because I want Celtic to win the league. Even though I'm a Rangers fan, even though I'm a Rangers fan, as John Beaton obviously is, I'm just going to give the wrong decision anyway, man, because I want Celtic to win the league. Come on, I want Celtic to win it. It makes sense, doesn't it, Dum Dum? Makes total sense, mate. VAR has given the refs nowhere to hide, and the refs can't handle it, as we are now getting decisions that we didn't get for generations. Good point, man. Good point. I don't believe what you're saying is, though, that Celtic were intentionally given decisions wrong in the past. Well, I hope that's not what you're saying. I just think that what you're saying is that maybe referees bottled it back in the day. I think that they've bottled certain decisions at particular grounds and stuff. I don't believe it's cheating, though. I think they've been influenced by outside noise, as in crowds and stuff. But I don't believe that Celtic were given any worse decisions than Rangers or Hearts or anything over the years. I really don't. I'm not one of these people that has ever said Celtic have been victimised. But I've heard it for many, many years, though. Celtic have been victimised by the SFA and victimised by referees. That's not my take on things. I personally don't think that's ever been the case, in my opinion. I think the referees have always just had either a really, really good game or a really, really shit game. The standards has either been really, really good or really, really poor. They get decisions wrong throughout matches and stuff like that. I get that. That's always going to happen. I watch football from all over the world, guys. I watch Italian football. I watch English football. I watch Spanish football. Any kind of game that I see on the TV that I fancy watching, I watch. And I see referees' decisions horrendous over the years in every country. Every country. I remember watching an Italian game a few years ago. I think it was Juventus against AC Milan. And literally they were going to attack the referee because he made a really, really poor decision. Referees get things wrong over the years. But I don't know. I'm not even sure why I'm getting into this debate, man. Going to somebody else. Let's just talk about something else. Let's just talk about something else, man. Let's talk about a different topic here, Trips, because this is. I don't want to go on about this. I really don't. I've said everything I've got to say. If you want to see any of me commenting on any of this stuff, go and watch some of the videos of the lives, I've done early the last few months or whatever, but I really don't want to get into this big discussion about referees and all that, because at the end of the day, right, you're not going to convince me that there's cheating going on, and I'm not going to convince you that there's no. So, there's no point in having this big discussion about it, is there? There's no point in us getting into this dialogue, this to and fro of, yes, referees are cheating or referees aren't cheating, because we're not going to be convinced either way. Let's just talk about topics that, we can actually have a discussion about, instead of, something that we're just not going to be changing our minds on. Do you know what I mean? One thing I will say, there's 50 people in the chat at the moment. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please hit the subscribe button. I'm going to do daily Celtic content every day. Going to go live every day. Give you all the latest news. Everything that I can do, Doom saying hello, we are the Billy Boys. Rangers fans are welcome in here as well, guys. If you want to come in, give me abuse, attack me physically, or you want to attack my appearance, or you want to attack what I've got to say about football, bring it on, guys. I'm no shy, I'm no bothered, man. I've got thick skin. But who will be relegated? Sturgeon says. Who came up last season? St Johnstone are coming up. And that's that, isn't it? Because Kilmarnock stayed up, didn't they? So you're maybe looking at St Johnstone. Depending on whether Falkirk lose their manager or no, they could possibly go down. You could maybe see Falkirk go down if their manager moves on. St Mirren won playoff, that's it, sorry, St Mirren won. What are you greeting about if we're dead? I've never said you died. I've never said that he's died, mate. Doom, if you're going to make accusations, mate, then at least get your facts right. I've never said that Rangers died. I've never said that. We're laughing at the Tribute Act. Listen, I dislike Rangers more than I've ever disliked Rangers, so why would I dislike a new club and all that? Clearly it's the same club. You know what I mean? It is to me anyway. I'll always say that, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, but they did die. That's fair enough, mate. That's another one I'm not getting involved in, man. I'm not getting involved in that. It happened fucking 15 years ago, 14 years ago. That's another thing I'm not going down that road, man, because that will be here all night with that. But I'd like to know for Celtic fans and stuff, let me know what kind of positions would you like Celtic to strengthen in this season, and what positions are you looking for, and we'll discuss that. Do you think McInnes will be a success? I don't know. Doom, if you're not going to be respectful, we're going to just move on, mate. I'd like to know for Celtic fans what position. Personally, I want a goalkeeper. I think we need a goalie in the door. Sinisalo is decent enough, but he's not the answer for me. Going forward than that, we need a better goalkeeper, in my opinion. I want an upgrade in Sinisalo. But what I was saying there was, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. It really does help me. I'm also on TikTok, I'm on X, and I'm on Instagram at the moment. So go and give me a wee follow over there. I've only got like 44 people following me on Instagram at the moment. So, you know, like I say, I'm going to be putting daily content out there. I'm going to be putting clips up of on TikTok and that of the discussions I've had in here. So you'll see your kind of names and your comments and stuff going up on TikTok and that, and me replying to everybody and stuff. So backup player for Tierney, well that's it. That's what I was talking about that earlier on, pal, the Saracchi thing. Absolutely gutted that Saracchi's not coming back to Celtic, to be honest. That's a real blow for me. I reckon it's bigger than Iheanacho. I really do. Because, you know, we've already signed Duran, who looks like a decent enough player. Iheanacho, although he was there in big moments and stuff, he wasn't ever really fit and ready to come into the Celtic team and start games and stuff. So we can replace strikers. I think to replace Saracchi is going to be difficult. A guy who's good enough to come in when called upon and also be happy to sit on the bench and push for his place. You know, we're going to really struggle to find both aspects there. You know what I mean? You're either going to get a player in who's of the quality but going to be raging he's sitting on the bench, or a player in who's not good enough to lace Kieran Tierney's boots. That's what's going to happen here, I think. Unless we get really lucky and get another Saracchi in, then I think it's going to be difficult. Saracchi spent a whole chunk of the season injured. I don't think that's true, man. I wouldn't say a whole chunk of the season. I think he'd a couple of months out, wasn't he? Nowhere near as long as like Alistair Johnson was out. Saracchi had a period of time where he was out, but and so what as well though. You know, he's fit now, he's ready to go now, but every player gets injured at some point. You know what I mean? Just because he spent a wee bit of time out injured last season doesn't mean that we shouldn't have re-signed him. Every time Saracchi played for Celtic, he was excellent in my opinion. I can't think of Saracchi having a poor game for Celtic. He was brilliant. He could pick out a pass, he could defend properly, he was good going forward, crossing balls in for people and stuff. You know, you look at the goal that Maida scored on the last day of the season, Saracchi crossed that in, didn't he? So, I mean, I just think it's a massive loss for Celtic, to be honest with you. But anyway, I'm going to go live every day, like I say. Monday to Friday, it's going to be around about 7, 8 o'clock or that, so just keep the notification bell on, guys, for when I do go live. It might not be the exact same time every night, but it will be there about 7:30, 8 o'clock, that kind of time and stuff. But I'm going to go there now, guys. Thanks very much for watching. Remember, like I say, hit the subscribe button, go and comment on my videos or on the lives or whatever you want to do in that. I'm going to be doing giveaways and that as well at some point once I reach a certain amount of subscribers. Also, I'm going to have guests on, so if anybody wants to come on here on my show as a guest, Celtic supporters or whatever, to talk about the current situation, you are more than welcome, guys. Everybody's more than welcome to come in and talk to me. Well, like I say, I just want to do daily content on here and make sure this channel grows. Thanks very much for watching, people. All the best. Hail, hail.